Sunday night smelled like overcooked chicken and dish soap, the unofficial scent of family obligations. Iris balanced a folding table in her arms, nudging the kitchen door open with her hip. The room was crowded, not with people but with expectation, thick in the way that invisible things can be heavier than furniture. Her parents were moving around like stagehands, Mom at the oven, Dad setting out mismatched plates, while her younger sister Tessa leaned against the counter in a jacket that shimmered like a slot machine, thumbs moving in rhythm over her phone screen. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and tell us where you're listening from. She didn't look up, didn't offer to help. When Iris set the table down, Tessa smirked without meeting her eyes. "Don't forget the rent transfer, banker girl." The words were light, but sharp. Iris forced the corners of her mouth upward, the ghost of a smile. "Please don't call me that," she said quietly, already knowing no one would hear the plea behind the words. Dad laughed as if it were all a sitcom script. "Come on, Iris. Lighten up. You know you're our sponsor." Sponsor? The word clung to the air, half joke, half truth. Mom slid a tray into the oven with practiced ease, her tone soft enough to pretend kindness. "Your sister's moving to a nicer place next month. Safer neighborhood. She can't do it alone." The way she said it made it sound like a decision already made, a payment already scheduled. Iris felt the weight settle on her chest the way only familiarity can. She took a slow breath. "We talked about this," she said gently. "I'm not paying another security deposit." That should have been the end of it. But Tessa finally looked up, wide-eyed with practiced innocence. "You said that last time too," she shot back. "And then you paid. So don't start your whole drama act again." The words dripped entitlement, not venom. That was worse. She wasn't fighting for help. She was reciting a script she knew always ended with Iris opening her wallet. Iris didn't raise her voice. She never did. Years of working payroll at a clinic had trained her to smooth chaos into silence. She just said, "I meant it this time." Tessa rolled her eyes in a full, exaggerated circle. "Oh my God, you're really going to make me beg?" Iris held onto the edge of the table, grounding herself, her voice steady. "I'm not making you do anything." Her aunt appeared briefly, grabbed a fork, sensed the storm brewing, and walked out without a word. Like always, Iris was the one framed as unreasonable. Like always, no one asked if she could afford it, or if she even wanted to. Dad took a step closer, using that tone he only ever used when he wanted something dressed up as virtue. "Family helps family. We didn't raise you to be selfish." The word selfish landed exactly where she was already raw. Iris began stacking paper plates just to keep her hands moving because stillness made her voice shake. She didn't look at anyone as she said, "We're not doing this here." Tessa scoffed. "You just don't like how it sounds when people call you out." Mom turned from the oven, dish towel in hand, her authority soft and suffocating. "Enough, Iris. You'll figure out the deposit." "Tessa, say thank you." That was how it always went. A decision made for her, wrapped in the language of kindness, dressed in the clothes of family. Iris stared at her sister, at the expectation in the room, at the invisible ledger she never agreed to keep but somehow always balanced. Her phone buzzed on the counter. A new message in the family group chat. Memes, fake laughter, jokes about her being the responsible one. She silenced the notification, set up the folding table like a good daughter, hugged two distant cousins she barely knew, and slipped out before dessert. No one stopped her. They never did, because they knew she'd pay anyway. Outside, the air was damp and metallic, rain still clinging to the pavement. She sat in her car with her hands on the steering wheel, forehead resting against the cool leather. Her breath fogged the dashboard. Dad's voice echoed in her head. "Sponsor." Mum's tone, "You'll figure it out." Tessa's sing-song whine, "Don't make me beg." Numbers marched across her mind with accountant precision. Rent, utilities, phone plan, car insurance, streaming bundles, all under her name, all invisible until they weren't, all expected without gratitude. She'd told herself 1,000 times that being quiet was easier, that if she didn't make a scene, things would calm down. But storms don't vanish when you ignore them. They just memorize the schedule. Iris opened her phone. A message from Noah waited. Chaos scale from 1 to run? She typed back, 8 and rising. His reply came fast. Proud of you either way. She didn't drive home right away. She just sat there, listening to the quiet pressure inside her build like something stretching too thin. No rage. Not yet. Just the slow press of a lifetime of yeses crowding her chest. When she finally turned the key, the sound of the engine felt like the first choice she'd made all night. At home, the apartment was everything her family wasn't. Orderly, quiet, intentional. Shoes lined up, receipts sorted, cat bowl filled. Sky blue walls like calm water. She fed the cat, opened her laptop, stared at the spreadsheet. A web of automatic payments and temporary transfers that had turned into permanent expectation. Then the email notification blinked on the screen. Landlord renewal check-in. CC, Iris Lane, Clinic Mail. She froze. They'd given her work email to the landlord. Of course they had. No one asked permission. They just assumed she'd cover it. Her chest went cold, not from surprise, but from the absence of it. She could already hear the chorus in her head. Sponsor, you'll figure it out. Don't make me beg. Iris leaned back in her chair, staring at the glow of the laptop screen. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, but she didn't type. Not yet. Something inside her wasn't breaking. It was locking into place. Quietly. Precisely. Like a door she didn't realize she'd built. She whispered it into the empty room, just to hear it out loud. Not this time. The cat blinked at her, unbothered. The room stayed still, and for the first time so did she. She closed her eyes, and in the quiet, the truth settled like a stone at the bottom of a lake. She thought if she stayed quiet, the storm would calm. It never did. It just memorized her payday. The email arrived on a Tuesday evening, buried between clinic memos and payroll confirmations. Iris was still in her work scrubs, hair pulled back, dinner untouched on the counter. Landlord renewal check-in. She almost ignored it, another dull reminder of someone else's responsibility, but then she saw it. CC'd directly to her work address. Her pulse slowed, not quickened. A cold, steady silence moved through her chest. They'd given him her professional email. Her employer's domain. A line she never agreed to had been crossed so quietly it almost didn't make a sound. She clicked the thread. The landlord's message was cheerful, the kind of cheerfulness people use when they already know who's paying. Thanks for always being prompt, Iris. We'll reach out directly if anything's late. The casual certainty in those words landed harder than shouting ever could. Her mother's voice echoed in her head. She can't do it alone. Her father's. Family helps family. Tessa's. Don't make me beg. And now, a stranger, a landlord, folded seamlessly into their chorus, confident that Iris would cover it all. The air around her felt different, thin. She set the fork down without taking a bite and stared at the blue light of the laptop. Somewhere between exhaustion and fury, something in her quiet obedience finally fractured. Not loudly, but like ice under a single patient footstep. The family group chat buzzed across the counter, the familiar ding that made her skin tighten. She didn't even have to open it to know the tone. She could picture the chain of messages like an old script. Tessa. Need to finalize lease ASAP. Mom. Iris will handle it. Dad. Don't make this complicated. She picked up the phone anyway. What waited for her wasn't a request. It was a message shaped like a knife. We need space from you. Please don't reach out anymore at all. The period at the end of the sentence was surgical. The next message landed seconds later. Uncle Rick is helping us pack tonight. Please don't make it weird. Pack. From the apartment she paid for. Iris stared at the text until it blurred. She waited for panic to rise. It didn't. Something colder settled in. We need space. Translation. They wanted the money, not her. When the money dried up, they cut the cord. Or thought they did. She typed slowly. Of course. I'll cancel my direct deposits first thing. The message left her phone like a glass shattering in a silent room. It wasn't dramatic. It was clean. A minute later, Dad responded. What is that supposed to mean? She didn't answer. Instead, she opened the spreadsheet. Row after row of obligations stared back. Rent, utilities, phone plan, car insurance, streaming bundles, grocery deliveries. Every invisible tether that kept them standing while they called her selfish for not wanting to bleed anymore. She took a photo of the sheet, attached it to the group chat, and pressed send. No explanation. No apology. For once, the facts would speak for themselves. The read receipts popped up one by one, like blinking lights on a detonator. No one responded right away. She could almost hear their confusion turning to outrage in real time. She leaned back in her chair, the cat circling her ankles as if nothing monumental had just happened. But something had. The quiet, obedient Iris they depended on like a subscription service had drawn her first line in the sand. It wasn't loud, but it was irreversible. The next wave came fast, as expected. Mum, what is this, Iris? Are you punishing us? Tessa, this is disgusting. You're sick. Dad, money isn't the same as family. Their fury didn't sting this time. It was background noise, like static behind a song she no longer wanted to hear. She opened her notes app, typed out her reply first to see how it sounded in her own voice. Then she read it aloud softly, testing it like armor. Finally, she sent it. Money is exactly what you want from me. The rest you mock. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm just honoring what you said. You told me not to reach out. Read by all. No immediate response. Just silence thick enough to taste. She began moving methodically, like she was processing payroll, but this time for her own survival. One tab opened to the landlord's portal. End automatic payments. One email drafted to the utility company. Remove card on file. Another to the phone carrier. Transfer account ownership. She didn't rush. She didn't hesitate. She simply unwound the ropes they had tied around her name, one knot at a time. It was terrifying how easy it was to undo something that had cost her years of quiet servitude. Each confirmation email that landed in her inbox felt like oxygen-filling lungs she hadn't realized were starved. Then a text from Uncle Rick appeared. I'm here with them. I'll make sure the apartment's cleared. I'll return anything that's under your name. Iris stared at the message for a long moment. Relief flickered faintly. Not the dramatic kind, but the kind you feel when someone, just once, doesn't ask you to explain your boundaries. Thank you, she typed back. A second later, proud of you, kiddo. She sat back, listening to the apartment settle into its familiar hush. It wasn't peace yet. Peace would take time. But it was control. Hers, for the first time in years. The family chat began to light up again, their anger trying to claw its way back into her living room. She didn't let it. She muted the thread. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was deliberate. Hours passed like minutes. She opened a new folder on her laptop. Lane Untangling. Inside it, a clean document. Title, 30-day transition plan. Bullet points, deadlines, cancellations, transfers. She'd spent years memorizing everyone else's crises. Now she was scheduling her own freedom. The cat jumped onto the armrest, tail flicking lazily. Iris scratched behind its ears and whispered, "We're doing this clean." It wasn't defiance. It wasn't revenge. It was clarity, cold and steady as steel. The first strike didn't come from her parents. It came from Facebook. Iris hadn't even checked her phone that morning. She was brewing coffee, windows open, cool air moving through the kitchen, like a reminder that the world kept spinning. But the notifications stacked up like warning sirens. Her aunt had posted a photo of Tessa in front of the apartment building, boxes in hand, captioned with theatrical heartbreak. Some people forget what family means, but we don't. Heart emojis, sad face reactions. 47 comments in under an hour. Iris didn't need to open them to know what they said. She knew the family vocabulary of shame like a second language. Her co-workers said nothing, but she felt the weight of it while scanning charts at her desk. The clinic's break room was filled with the faint hum of microwaves and gossip that wasn't supposed to sound like gossip. Someone whispered her name. Not in cruelty, just curiosity. A story was unfolding somewhere out there, and she'd become its villain. The villain always arrives through someone else's retelling. Her phone buzzed again. Noah. Hey, you've been trending in Aunt Linda's personal echo chamber. She exhaled through her nose, not quite a laugh. She's fast, she typed back. They've had years to rehearse this script, he replied. You're just finally not playing your part. That landed deep, not because it was new, but because it was true. Iris sipped her coffee and stared at the clinic's parking lot through the window. Chaos was blooming outside of her control. She didn't need to chase it. She just had to stop feeding it. The text from her parents started mid-afternoon. We need to talk. Then another. You're hurting your sister more than you know. Then a longer one. This isn't how family works, Iris. She scrolled through them at her desk during lunch, not responding, letting each message arrive and stack like wet laundry she had no intention of folding. Then the calls came. First Mom, then Dad, then Aunt Linda. She let them ring out. That was new. Before she would have picked up, explained, smoothed it over, paid. Today she simply muted the phone and finished her sandwich. Uncle Rick texted near the end of her shift. They're loud, huh? She replied, like a marching band. He sent back a simple thumbs up and nothing else. That was his way of saying, you're not crazy. You're just finally free. But the real blast came that night. Someone, she didn't even have to guess who, created a group chat titled Family Matters. 42 members. The opening message was from her mother. We raised you better than this. Tessa is your sister. Aunts and cousins chimed in, some with passive-aggressive concern, others with unfiltered venom. She gave you everything growing up. She needs time. How can you sleep at night? Money changes people. Iris stared at the flood of messages, fingers still. Once upon a time, she would have defended herself. She would have explained every bill, every sacrifice, every quiet night she spent wondering why love felt like a tab she could never close. But now, explanation felt like an unpaid invoice. She didn't owe anyone anymore. She typed one line and hit send. I'm not discussing this here. Then she left the chat. No goodbye, no drama. Just a clean exit. 10 seconds later, her cousin sent a screenshot of her leaving. Then came the storm of subtweets and public posts dressed up as vague moral lessons. Some people forget loyalty when the bills aren't theirs anymore. The saddest part is watching someone turn cold. She set her phone face down and let it buzz itself into exhaustion. Noah showed up at her apartment around 9 with takeout and the quiet kind of presence that didn't demand talking. They sat on the couch with cartons of noodles between them. He glanced at her muted phone, lighting up the coffee table like a distressed lighthouse. You're not going to check it? He asked. She shook her head. They're not talking to me. They're talking to the version of me that always pays. His mouth tilted into a quiet, approving half-smile. Good. Let her stay dead. For the first time in a long time, the noise wasn't inside her. It was outside, clawing at a door she wasn't opening anymore. Uncle Rick called later, not to lecture, just to say, I'm proud of you, kid. I know how they get when they're cornered. Don't let their noise become your guilt. She swallowed hard, that strange sting in her throat that comes from being seen after years of being used. Thanks, she managed. I'll hold the line. The next few days blurred together into a steady rhythm of distant chaos. Family members rotated through guilt, outrage, and silence like stations on a radio. Iris answered none of it. She woke up early, watered the plants, fed the cat, showed up to work, and returned home to quiet. Each small ordinary act felt like a rebellion. By Friday, Tessa made her move. An Instagram story, a shot of a half-empty apartment with text over it. Some people leave you with nothing. Iris watched it once, then closed the app. Not out of numbness, but clarity. You can't guilt someone who's stopped listening. That night, Noah leaned against her kitchen counter, arms folded. "They'll burn through their stories eventually," he said. "They'll need a villain who replies. You're starving their favorite character." She poured herself tea, the steam curling like soft punctuation in the air. "Good," she said. "Let the noise starve." Silence arrived slowly, like fog settling over water. Not sudden, not dramatic, just patient. The first week without the daily storm of messages felt foreign, almost suspicious, as if the quiet were plotting something. But then it deepened, and Iris realized it wasn't plotting at all. It was just there. Her morning stopped beginning with guilt texts. No buzzing phone on the nightstand, no late-night demands disguised as love. Instead, she woke to the sound of the kettle, the cat padding across the hardwood floor, and sunlight pooling on the kitchen counter. It wasn't the kind of silence that asked her to explain herself. It was the kind that let her breathe. She started therapy on a Wednesday. A woman named Dr. Keene, glasses low on her nose, eyes sharp, but kind. "What does peace look like for you?" she asked in their first session. Iris thought for a long time before answering. "Smaller," she said finally, "but real." Dr. Keene smiled, the kind of smile that didn't rush to fix. "Smaller isn't less. It's just yours." The words sank in deep, like seeds in warm soil. That night, Iris went home and rearranged her living room. Not because it needed rearranging, but because she could. Her routine took shape like a slow, steady tide. Mornings with coffee and music low enough to feel like a hum. Afternoons at work without the weight of family emergencies hovering over every lunch break. Evenings spent on her balcony, the city a quiet pulse beneath her. Noah came over sometimes, bringing nothing more than a paper bag of takeout and his quiet. They didn't talk about the family every night anymore. The crisis wasn't the centerpiece of her life now. It was background noise she'd turned down to almost nothing. But silence doesn't mean surrender, and peace isn't always smooth. The family made their moves like clockwork. A group invitation to Sunday dinner. A text from Mom wrapped in careful diplomacy. "Come and apologize. We'll move forward as a family." The words were chosen like weapons disguised as olive branches. Iris stared at the message for a full minute, feeling the old reflex stirring in her bones. That twitch to make everyone comfortable. That pull to fix. But the pull was weaker now, like a tide against a stronger shore. She typed back slowly. "No, Mom, I love you, but I won't come to be shamed. If you want to talk, we can do it privately, without money involved." The reply came fast. "You're choosing strangers over blood." Her fingers hovered over the screen, but she didn't hesitate. "I'm choosing peace." The typing bubbles appeared, then disappeared. The silence that followed wasn't cold. It was final. Noah found her on the balcony that night, blanket around her shoulders, city lights blinking softly below. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah," she said, almost surprised by how true it felt. "It's weird, though. I keep expecting the chaos to come back." He leaned against the railing beside her. "That's withdrawal. Chaos has great marketing, peace doesn't." She laughed quietly, the sound unfamiliar but good. Peace should hire a better PR team. He nudged her shoulder. "You're doing better than you think." Weeks passed. The family kept posting vague quotes, carefully curated narratives to paint themselves as victims of Iris's boundaries. She didn't chase the story. She didn't defend. Silence became her language. Even when Tessa posted screenshots of her old spreadsheets calling her heartless, Iris didn't take the bait. Let them perform. Let them talk. She was finally off the stage. Uncle Rick checked in from time to time. A text, a coffee drop-off, a reminder. They'll be mad a long time, he said one afternoon over cheap diner coffee. Then they'll be hungry. Anger doesn't cook dinner. She laughed at that, really laughed. You've said that before. And I'll keep saying it, he replied. It's the truth. Truth, not guilt, not manipulation, just truth. Simple and solid, like the mug between her hands. One Friday night, she and Noah cooked together, music low, the cat weaving between their feet like it had a stake in their joy. They weren't fixing anything. They weren't bracing for impact. They were just existing, unremarkably and beautifully. Iris hadn't realized how much she'd lived in crisis until the absence of it felt this soft. The last attempt came through the mail. A letter from her mother, real paper, her familiar looping handwriting on the envelope. Inside, a birthday card. No apology, no reflection, just one line written at the bottom. We hope one day you'll forgive yourself for what you've done. Iris folded it neatly, slid it into a drawer, and felt nothing break. No panic, no spiral. Just a quiet recognition that they still didn't understand. But she did. Forgiveness wasn't something she owed them. It was something she'd already given to herself. That night, she lit a small candle, the flame steady in the still air. She fed the cat an extra treat, pressed play on an old record she loved but hadn't listened to in years. For the first time, the apartment didn't feel like a bunker. It felt like a home she chose. She texted Uncle Rick a picture of the candle. Thanks for standing by me. His reply came quick. Always remember, boundaries aren't walls. They're doors you finally learn to lock. She stared at the words a long time, not because she doubted them, but because they fit perfectly. The night folded around her like a soft coat, no sharp edges left. She set her phone face down, leaned back against the couch, and let the quiet settle into her bones like warmth. The noise hadn't disappeared. It had starved. And she hadn't run from it. She'd simply stopped feeding it. Peace isn't the reward, she whispered into the stillness, a smile curling at the edge of her mouth. It's the consequence of finally choosing yourself.